nurse bees attached to it. So yeah, I would have been tempted to add a frame with brood at all stages from your queen right colony, but make sure you don't put your queen in there. You know, make sure you find the queen in the other colony first. But you could just take a frame out with brood at all stages and don't shake the nurse bees off. Particularly if it's a frame that's got eggs and a lot of unsealed brood, maybe. Then I think the other bees would be very reluctant to harm those nurse bees, because they're so desperate for brood that they might well welcome it with open arms, really, you might say. And then they might well produce emergency queen cells. Right.
So how far do you think I should take the hive away to shake it? Because
20 yards, if you can.
Well, I did it, I can't remember when, did it before I could clear all the stuff away and get back. They were all back.
Yeah, but hopefully the laying workers won't come back.
There won't be, no.
Yeah, because the laying workers, their ovaries will have developed a bit, and they won't fly as well.
Oh, they don't fly, no. Okay.
It's I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because in your email you felt that at one stage you had 2 queens, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure to start with whether I'd got 2 queens, and I trapped one above the queen excluder.
Yeah.
Just the first, you know, when it started. But now I've got all drone brood in there.
So, what are you thinking, Sue? What's your plan, do you think?
Shake them out, I think.
So?
Yeah, I think definitely, yeah. I'll have to
if you've got a queen right colony to work from, then that's the best thing to do. Shake them out, and as I say, maybe put a frame with brood at all stages, particularly with a lot of eggs and unsealed brood in.
Right.
Majority of eggs and unsealed brood, and leave the nurse bees on it, and just put it in the middle. And I don't think that's the greatest opportunity you've got for them to make emergency queen cells then.
Yeah, I have uncapped. Did you say, David, to uncap some of the drone? I have uncapped some of that because there's so many drones there.
Yeah, well, you can go in, and if you've got an uncapping for it, you can uncap it all, and you don't have to remove it. You just basically damage the capping, and that'll be enough to get the bees to pull out the drones.
Okay.
You don't have to physically take the drone pupae out.
No, we use the uncapping fork thing. And uncap
I mean,
them, yeah.
obviously, if they're mature enough, they're at the pink eye stage, they will come out intact. But if they're younger than that, just be brutal. Just take the cappings off, and you'll damage the pupae, and the bees will naturally remove them.
Oh, right. Okay, I think I'll do that. I will shake them out then. Yeah. What else was going to ask something?
I think you'll have to, you ought to really do your uncapping first because once you take your bees away and shake them out, you don't want to be messing about with the hive for too long. You want to be able to close it up and wait for the flyers to come back.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You uncap your drone brood first, and then maybe afterwards you can take the box away and shake the bees out.
Okay. So the frames are okay then? I can reuse the frames?
Yes. Yes, that's right. They're not permanently damaged. If you have a drone eggs laid in worker cells, the bees will repair it. And I've found when I've had that, I've put in frames that have had a drone layer in, and after a week or two, you can't see the difference.
Really? Even where they've laid in the super?
Yeah, well, that'll be fine.
That'll be fine. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks for your help.
So, any other questions, or should we open it up?
Has there been a lot of egg-laying workers this year? Did you say laying workers? Has there been a lot of people had problems? No.
Oh, I'm not aware of any.
No.
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 The
I
drone-
had
I had one.
I had drone laying queens in the early on in the spring, but and I now got I've got a young queen that's turned drone layer, a new queen that's going to turn drone layer. But no, I wouldn't say it's any worse than average.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sue. So, has anybody else got a question they'd like to ask? No.
I don't.
Go on, Pete. Yeah, go on. I'll add something as well after you. Pete, what do you want to say? Anything?
No, I was just going to say, I mean, there aren't that many people logged on either, so if you haven't had many questions, have you had many questions emailed in?
No, only one from Sue.
I've got a question.
Yes.
Well, I've actually got two questions. First one is, as you probably know, I'm very new to this, is beginning this year with the weather so bad, I kept on putting off inspecting because either it's too cold or it's too wet. But obviously by the time the weather improved and I got around to it, it seemed a bit late. So how do you judge if the weather's that bad early in the season that you should really go and inspect even though the conditions aren't right?
Well,
Or
I think
just trust to luck.
I think no. I think despite the awful spring, I've been inspecting bees from mid-March as often as I felt they needed to be inspected. But the thing is, when you get more experience, you can be a lot slicker about it, and you can adjust the level of inspection you take according to weather conditions. We seem to have something going wrong here.
I think it's just sounded like there's a child in the background somewhere.
Oh, okay.
So are you that bothered about the 15-degree rule? Can you do it when it's colder?
Well, yes. The point. I'm sorry. I've just been distracted there, but some funny image came up on the screen. I don't know quite where that's coming from, but anyway, yes. Really, what I'm saying is, you just if the weather conditions are very poor, then you do have to. You can only make very brief inspections, not a thorough inspection. So what one has to do is just look for the most salient points. For example, when I was inspecting the bees from mid-March, I was just opening up the colony, counting the number of frames with bees on, so monitoring the strength of the colony, how big the cluster was, and then I would quickly go through and just find the first frame with brood on, and if that looked normal to me, that was enough, and I would close up and not do any more. So in a year like this, it's so easy not to have inspected bees enough, and then suddenly, despite the appalling weather we've had, the colonies still have been developing as normal, because their development seems to be totally more dependent on day length rather than external temperatures. So that when you do, if you do not inspect until well on into the season, you might suddenly get a shock, because you might suddenly find you've got a colony bursting with bees, which should have already had extra room, a week or two ago, and that's why there's possibly people have been losing swarms this year because they've not been giving the bees enough room, and also this year it's been noticeable that some swarms have been coming out in really what I would call ridiculous weather conditions, but they were coming out because they built up so much in numbers and they were too congested, that they were just forced to go into swarm mode.
Right.
So it's all, there's a difference. What you've got to take into consideration is whether it's not only the temperature, but it's sort of wind speed and all that sort of thing. Obviously, if it's 10 degrees and it's a calm day, it's not as bad as if it's 10 degrees and it's a howling wind. You know, so you've got to take things like that into consideration. Okay. And well, you do have to take, I would suggest you do have to take chances, but if the temperatures are below ideal conditions, then really one should limit your inspection time to as little as possible.
Okay.
But don't stop inspecting completely, otherwise you won't have a clue as to what's going on.
Yes, as I found, yeah.
You can get some kind of an idea of what's going on, but just by looking at the bees coming in and out, or looking at the entrance, kind of pollen coming in, as a young bee's kind of bearding or gathering around the entrance, that can be a sign of them wanting to swarm. I mean, there's a book, I think it's on our website in the members section that you can download. It's an old book. It's called At the Hive Entrance. It's worth a look at.
Okay. Yeah, I did see activity out, you know, at the hive entrance, which was, in some days I was surprised at, because it wasn't just cold, it was, you know, quite appalling really. And so, yeah, learn for next year.
I think really, you know, you can just by lifting the crown board and having a look to see how much of the brood box is occupied by bees, that can give you some indication of how strong they're getting. You know, and I mean, once, as a rule of thumb, once all seams are filled with bees except for the outside seams, it's time they had a super on, even if you've not inspected them. You know, but it's important to put on supers in good time, but equally, you don't want to put these supers on too soon, because suddenly you're giving them a lot more air space to keep warm. So it's all a matter of judgment, really. And as Peter says, you by just observing the coming and going at the hive entrance, you can learn a lot just by observing that. You don't necessarily have to dive in. But okay. It is okay. You know, bees will tolerate you inspecting them at temperatures down to 10 centigrade, but obviously you want to be in and out in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Not too long. Okay.
The other question was, for monitoring,
yes,
the whiteboard. You know, so when you put your whiteboard in, how long do you leave that in for? Is it a day or a week? And then once you've left that in and you counted them, what's the shortest time you do another count? Is it a week later or a month later to get a better result?
It depends on whether you need to treat them after you've done your count. But the received wisdom is normally to put your board in and leave it in for a week, and then take it out and get a daily average from the 7 days. If the natural mite drop is within normal range, then possibly do it again in a month's time. I don't personally believe in leaving the inserts in permanently, because it's a perfect breeding ground for the wax moth larvae. It's amazing how they'll live on the debris that comes through there, and you know, that's obviously something you don't want to happen. So I don't, even in the depths of winter, unless your hives are in a very exposed location, I tend not to recommend keeping the inserts in. I'd rather leave the mesh floors open, providing you've got good insulation under the roof.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I've got a polyhive, and so I normally don't have the insert in. I only put it in for a count. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. I mean, polyhives are certainly better insulated than wooden hives. There's no doubt about that. And of course, the roof is a natural insulator, so you don't have to put extra insulation in them as you do with a wooden hive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, David. Fran, I remembered you from last time. You were asking about top bar hive.
Yes, that's right. I haven't really done very much about it yet because it's not coming till August.
Okay.
But it's coming. It's coming with bees, hopefully. It's our neighbour back in Hertford who he built it, and he just very kindly said he'd like us to have it. So I wasn't going to refuse it, even though I've got no experience of top bar hives. We've got plenty of room now where we've moved to. So yes, hopefully it'll all happen sometime in August when it arrives.
Oh, great.
So I haven't. Thank you for sending the email address. I haven't contacted her yet. I thought I'd probably just do it a bit nearer the time when I was absolutely sure we were going to have it. But I think we'll probably need, some advice from somebody like that. So that's been really helpful.
Good. Yeah. I'm sure Katrina will help you.
Thank you.
The other thing you asked about was visiting the Wern apiary.
Yes.
I'm sure David will agree, but if you'd like to come sort of any Saturday from now on, we'll be there from 2 o'clock every Saturday.
Great.
And we're opening it up to anybody other than beginners, so any member can come along. But they do have to email me in advance just to let me know if they're coming.
Okay. No, well
there's a guy kind of called Phil Chandler who's down in Somerset in the West Country. He's kind of the leading component in the country for top bar hives. He's got a website called the Barefoot Beekeeper, and he's also on YouTube. He has a lot of videos about top bar hives.
So you say it's called the Barefoot Beekeeper?
Yeah, and the guy's name is Phil Chandler.
Phil Chandler. Great. I've got that down. Thank you very much. I'll look it up. So it's Saturdays from 2 o'clock.
Yeah. So various members of the committee will be there, and beginners as well. But what we're finding is that I guess we get about 10, 12 maybe each Saturday, and we felt we would open it up to anyone else who'd like to come for a number of reasons. We've got a queen rearing program which may be of interest, and it's helpful if other members come along, to help out, have a chat.
Yeah, no, that would be great for us because we had to give our bees away when we moved. So until we get this top bar hive, and hopefully at some point we'll get our national hive back from the friend who took it over, it'd be really nice to get some experience just watching and taking part.
Have you got bee suits?
Yeah, we've got bee suits and everything. Yeah.
We have association bee suits. If you bring yours along, if you clean them, or if they're clean, that's great.
Yeah, no, they were all cleaned when they went into store, so they haven't been used since they were cleaned. So I think they're pretty safe.
Yeah.
So
And no leather gloves.
no leather gloves.
No.
No.
Why no leather gloves?
Because you can't sterilize them.
I see. Okay.
We prefer you to wear, marigold type gloves, disposable vinyl gloves, anything like that, whatever you like, but something which is easily washed and kept clean.
Yeah. No, I tend to wear marigold gloves. I find them quite easy to use, because if you have them quite tight, then I find that I could work the hive better than the first gloves we had, with those material ones, weren't they? And they weren't very good.
They were leather.
They were. Oh right, okay. Well, we don't use those anymore anyway.
No,
So,
we don't.
yeah.
We don't recommend those at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much. That's lovely. I'll be in touch.
Can I ask a question, Chris, just to follow up on the Varroa?
Of course, Toby. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Do you treat on the basis of your count with the Varroa, or would you treat anyway? Or would it just give you a timing when you should get on and treat it if you've suddenly got a bit of an infestation? But because I was under the impression I was just going to treat. I tend to treat at the end of the summer, on the basis that it's the right time to do it after you've collected the honey, whether there's a big, a high Varroa count or not.
If you do, say, for example, a monthly mite count, it gives you an indication of just what level of infestation you've got, and whether you need to worry about it as the summer progresses. I did put up some numbers in the last newsletter, which are the sort of the baseline numbers, which are considered to be acceptable at different months in the year. If the numbers the natural mite drop gets above those numbers that were in the newsletter, then you may well have to consider treating earlier than at the end of the summer. But the drawback is there's only one treatment you can use while the supers are still on, and that is using the Mite Away quick strips. All the other medications, you have to take the supers off because it will contaminate the honey. So that's a disadvantage of all the other medications. Also, I did. I'm sorry.
That's what I was wondering. That's the thing. If you're going to treat it with one thing, how bad would it have to get before it actually starts affecting your yield and actually stopping you producing? I suppose it just weakens the colony as such.
Yes, it weakens the colony so that they're just not so productive. And if you do nothing, eventually it will kill the colony.
Yeah.
It could take 2 years to do that, but they'll gradually decline, really.
And also, you kind of you might be introducing viruses, and a weakening colony kind of makes them susceptible to other things, sort of like EFB and stuff like that. And all the numbers are in the NBU Varroa booklet as well, and on the NBU website.
Okay, thank you.
There are possible other ways of managing Varroa without chemical treatment, and I did also suggest those in the last newsletter as well. I don't know whether anyone reads the newsletters or not, but that you can. There are other ways that you can deal with reducing your Varroa levels, but it isn't so much that the Varroa itself, as Peter says. It's more the viral load they carry, and the transmission of all these viruses, and the general immunosuppression of them that makes them vulnerable to everything else that they can pick up. So just generally, overload of Varroa causes just general extreme stress on the colonies.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, I'm just going to just talk about a situation that I saw with a friend of mine, unless anybody else has got a question.
No, carry on.
It's so my neighbour, who was a beginner 2 years ago, Alison, she contacted me and said, Chris, I've got no brood left in my colony, and I can't see the queen anywhere. Can't find her anywhere. What should I do? Have you got a queen or some eggs, a frame of eggs? Now, I just wanted to add that now that we're into June, there's the hawthorn's just finished, so I mean the bees are still going out. They're getting something. I'm not sure if there's a honey flow or not. I don't think there is right now, but queens can go off late, and that happens quite a lot. Anyway, so I went up and had a look at her hive, and yeah, couldn't find a queen, couldn't see any brood, anything. I did see remains of an old queen cell, so I suspected that there had been a new queen. Was she there or not? I don't know. Now I had a virgin that I could take up, so I took it up on Monday with the idea of putting it into the hive in an introduction cage, and the first frame I pulled out of the middle of the brood chamber, I just went straight to the middle. Well, I made some space, went straight to the middle and pulled it out, and there was a queen. So I was lucky that I saw the queen, and she was a new queen. Hadn't started laying yet, but there she was. So I didn't have to put the virgin queen in there. If I had, one of them would have been killed. It would have been wasted. Of course, the other thing I could have done was put a frame of eggs in, but a frame of eggs at this time of year, when queens go off lay, are quite rare. They're valuable items. So you're taking away a frame from a colony that should be okay, but it's something which I'd rather not do if queens go off late so much. And it's much easier to put in a virgin queen in my situation, just to try it out. But just be aware that queens go off late, and you may find you've got no brood in your colony. You may be panicking just as Alison was, when in reality, in her case, they swarmed, and the new queen was there, but she hadn't seen her, and it's just about to start laying. So I don't know, it's a very common thing, I think, to find your colony's got no.
Yeah.
So I don't know if David or Peter or anybody else wants to.
Yeah,
say.
I think yes, it is yet another thing which can confuse beginners, really, that suddenly queens will go off lay and they can't understand why. But one has to see the fuller picture, really, and be aware of whether there is any nectar out there for the bees to collect. And particularly if you've got what we call more locally adapted bees, they're quite good at just turning off the tap. If the nectar doesn't come in, the signal goes to the nurse bees, and the nurse bees stop feeding the queen, she stops laying. So this is where it can help if you get better at finding the queen, and when you find her, you mark her, and obviously stick to the year marking so that you've got some idea of whether it's the right queen that you're expecting to see or not. So and that's also why some people go to the extent of also clipping the queen's wings, because you can record how you've clipped them and which wing you clipped and so on and so forth, and that can tell you exactly whether it's the same queen that you saw before, and you're more aware of whether there has been a change of queen, possibly an unknown swarming, or possibly a supersedure, because supersedure occurs a lot more frequently than we think. It's quite interesting how I try to mark all my queens, and sometimes you go in and you find an unmarked queen when there should have been a marked queen in there, and then you look closer and you think, gosh, yeah, that's a younger queen too, because she's got nice fine wings on her, which aren't tattered or whatever, and maybe she's also a bit more active, because younger queens do run around faster than older queens. So you get all these sort of hints to tell you that maybe you've had a change, and then if you do have a change, sometimes there can be a brood gap, which can be quite normal. So going back to Alison's case, it might well be that actually she could have had a supersedure there, and that the original queen went, and the new queen, this is a new queen in there as well. That could be adding to the mix. There's so many variables really, but all you can do is just try and observe and record exactly what you do see every time you go in, and try and make sense of it as best you can. But it can be difficult to be absolutely sure what's going on, but you can only make a stab at interpreting what you see.
This is where it helps when you have more than one hive as well. You've got a comparison, and if one hive's been broodless, you can take a frame of eggs out and put it into the brood out of a good hive and put it into the one that's broodless to test
Yes.
queen cells.
Yes, a test frame is extremely useful. And another advantage of having several hives is that you can compare, and if all the other hives have got eggs in and one hasn't, that is a bit suspicious, because it means they should all be responding to prevailing conditions in the same way, not just the one. So yeah, that's an extra bit of information which you can glean if you do have two or more hives to compare, really.
Okay. I don't know if anybody else has got anything to say, would like to say something. Okay, so we shall end it there then, shall we? I think. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Hope that was helpful. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you soon.